SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
When addiction takes control, getting help can change everything. Parkwood Behavioral Health System offers compassionate, evidence-based addiction treatment for adults right here in Mississippi. Take the first step today. Visit parkwoodbhs.com. Healing starts here. With limited exceptions, physicians are not employees or agents of this facility.
Middays with Gerard Gibert is on the air. Middays with Gerard Gibert is powered by C-Spire. Power your home or business with C-Spire Fiber. To learn more, visit supertalk.fm/C-Spire. C-Spire Fiber powers SuperTalk Mississippi. Get ready to go beyond the headlines and join a meaningful conversation with people from around the state. You're listening to Middays with Gerard Gibert here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Middays, SuperTalk Mississippi. I'm your host, Gerard Gibert, along with Rhino in the Element Wealth Studio, guiding you through the middle of your day with facts, fodder, and fine music on this Hump Day. Made it to the middle of the week, and it's still rainy and stormy, especially across the southern region of the state. And did I see this right? A tropical storm might impact the southern counties, the southern region of our state. I think just whipping it up with even more rain. Not that it needs more. I think we've had enough rain this week to cool the data centers for about a decade. How about that?
Yeah, I don't know if it's technically a tropical storm yet.
Okay. Headed in that direction, though, right?
The warnings have been issued, yeah.
Okay. Little early for that, huh? Jeez. We got Mark Vargas on the program today at 10:35, a member of the Iraq Task Force. Also served in the Office of the Secretary of War from 2007 to 2010. And you guessed it, he's going to provide his assessment of this deal between the United States and Iran. Now, folks, the Wall Street Journal, well, like within the last 30 minutes, they just published an annotated analysis of this draft of the deal. I'm not exactly sure how they got it. They do say that U.S. officials circulated a draft to counterparts at the G7 meeting in France, and I guess, Ryan, once you do that, you might as well tell the world, right? It's not like, even if they were asked to keep it confidential, that they would. We wouldn't expect that. Nonetheless, the Journal has got an excellent analysis of the major terms and conditions. And I won't go through every one of them. Just looking through the list here, there are 13 major provisions. 13. No surprise. Number one is we're going to stop shooting at each other. I mean, you would expect that to be. I'll read that one for you. The Islamic Republic of Iran and the United States, together with their allies in the current war, declare upon the signing of this memorandum of understanding an immediate and permanent end to the war on all fronts, including Lebanon, and undertake that from now on they will not launch any hostile action against each other and will refrain from the threat or use of force against each other. That sounds like a William Faulkner sentence right there, does it not? It goes on and on. Just looking at the journal here, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 lines it took to make that sentence. So, no surprise there. And then, okay, both the the Islamic Republic of Iran and the U.S. undertake to respect each other's sovereignty and territorial integrity and won't interfere. Okay.
It just became Tropical Storm Arthur.
Oh, wow.
Just got the notification. Apparently it happened about 10, 15 minutes ago.
Expected to dump a bunch of rain, right, on our Gulf Coast in that region. Not that it needs any more. Man, I'm hearing reports from Picayune in particular. I have some friends in that area say that they're experiencing some flash flooding and they're concerned about all the water being dumped. Man, it's crazy, isn't it? It seems like only yesterday we were talking about droughts and still see a bunch of dead pine trees all over the place and other vegetation, the result of the drought of 2024 that was prolonged, it was hot, no rain, and now we're getting inundated with water. So also then with respect to the Strait of Hormuz, there's a provision that says as soon as we sign this deal, the U.S. will lift its naval blockade, won't obstruct, and all traffic will be restored to full capacity within 30 days. So let's see, take steps to ensure that Iran will take steps to ensure that the movement of merchant ships from the Persian Gulf to the Sea of Oman and vice versa is resumed within 30 days. Let's see, they will both parties will work diligently to restore economic development. This is the one that's really in question, Rhino, is we got the president saying we're not sending any money to Iran. The vice president says, yes, we are, but they've got to meet certain conditions to receive that money. So this provision right here, number 6 in the MOU, it says the U.S., along with its partners, will create a comprehensive plan agreed on by both parties for the rehabilitation and economic development of the Islamic Republic of Iran while ensuring financing. So that's the tricky word there. Maybe we're just loaning money, financing, or are we providing unencumbered monies, $300 billion? The implementation mechanism of this plan as part of the final agreement will be formulated within 60 days. So the bottom line is we don't know. But the figure, $300 billion is in the MOU. The president says there will be no funding, but it's in the MOU. So I don't know what that means exactly. And then I guess the other big provision, this is number 8. I don't know that the others are too terribly impactful and meaningful, just looking through the others. But number 8's the big one. The Islamic Republic of Iran reiterates that it will never produce nuclear weapons. Oh, it reiterates that it won't. Gotcha. The Islamic Republic of Iran and the United States have agreed that the fate of enriched material and the fate of all other mutually agreed nuclear-related issues, including Iran's nuclear needs, will be adequately addressed in a final agreement. The final agreement will confirm the provisions of this article. So, but Rhino, this is Iran just espousing the same rhetoric. We're not looking for a nuclear weapon here. This is nothing new. They've already pledged that, not to develop a nuclear weapon, and acknowledge that, yeah, we got nuclear material. We have a stockpile of it, and we could enrich it. So I think we have to wait 60 days, honestly, to see where these negotiations take us.
Well, the one thing to keep in mind with this situation is the cultural understanding of the most radical parts of the Islamic faith. Those radical parts of the faith sincerely believe that it is not only justified but encouraged to lie to infidels for the benefit of Islam. And if the U.S. are including Islamic allies in this negotiation, and Iran is making promises to their Islamic allies or to the Islamic countries in the region, that's a different story, because it is highly frowned upon in the radical sects to lie to other Islamists.
I got you. But to the infidels, it's perfectly accepted. In fact, it's encouraged, all right? Yeah, if that gets what you want, just lie. I think that's the doctrine, if you will.
But if you've got somebody like Saudi Arabia with a big part of the pie here in the conversation, then they're less likely to be lying, because then they're worried about damning themselves to hell.
Good point. Good point.
Still not saying you should trust them 100%, but if we have allies in the region that have our back legitimately, then that's a push in the right direction.
Agree. I think, though, the main takeaway I get here is that we still got some work to do to get to the goal of denuclearizing Iran. We still got some work to do. We're pledging we're not going to create a weapon, but with respect to this nuclear material we have, we got to talk about that. That's what I get out of this. It's being reported right now, oil tankers still on alert for mines and attacks in the Strait. Coming right back in the Element Wealth studio.
Business owner.
The talk that keeps Mississippi talking.
We're rolling. Hit it. Go. Play it.
Middays with Gerard Gibert on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Okay, so now it's being reported that the vice president said no American money will go directly to Iran. So the whole thing's kind of convoluted. I hope that the American people are provided with all the details and that this is done in a 100% transparent method. And I just know, reading again this provision, the United States undertakes together with its regional partners. So that implies that it's both the U.S. and its partners in the area that would provide this funding. I know we had a couple of people, and you said it on the break on the C Spire text line, that, Dan in Hattiesburg, I've heard that the funding comes from Iran's neighbors. And that may be the case, but heard it from where, Dan? I'm reading, no disrespect, but I'm reading the actual MOU. I don't take that from that statement. It could be. But when it says the United States together, so you got two.
Well, one way to take that from that statement would be Trump came into the negotiations talking about, hey, one of the reasons they're angry is because we have bases over here.
Yeah.
That's costing us a lot of money to have bases over here. If y'all don't want us to pull out, y'all got to start putting up some money for this.
Yeah, that's right. But this could mean it's the U.S. It says together. So that, to me, implies that it's jointly funded. But, again, all of that will be hammered out in the final agreement. I think it's safe to say that, in general, Americans would be upset if American dollars flow to Iran to rebuild it. I think that is a concern that many share. I among them. I agree with them. But it's hard to tell from this. And if it means, well, we're going to send, as the vice president says, not going direct. It's interesting you use the word direct. Does that mean we're going to send money to the partners and they're then going to send it to Iran? I don't know what that means exactly. And I don't think we will until they hammer out the final agreement. At this point, I'm really hoping that we just get an agreement on Friday. That seems to be a little bit up in the air, and the only reason I say that is because earlier this morning, the vice president did say, let me see if I can get it right. Yeah, he said the Iran deal could be scrapped if there is an, quote, utter meltdown. Now, I don't know exactly what that means, but that sounds less than 100% confident that we're going to get a deal. Sounds like maybe there's some objections coming from the regime that they're perhaps trying to hammer out. But I shared with you of the 13 major provisions. I think I went through 5 or 6 of them that I felt were the most significant. So we'll see. Now, the final agreement is supposed to be approved, talking about the MOU, through a binding resolution of the UN Security Council. I didn't realize that they were a party to this and involved. And I'm not sure what to expect out of the UN Security Council. But we all should be concerned, should we not, that, as you've pointed out, so effectively, these people lie. And it's embedded in their culture, in their doctrine, in their policies, if you will. Yeah, we lie if it means that it's in the best interest of Islam versus the infidels. That's everybody that's not part of Islam. That would be us. So I don't know what to think. I do think it's safe to say that if we don't completely eliminate their nuclear ambitions and honestly remove nuclear material out of the country, or it is destroyed, my concern is that folks would say this was all for naught. That no objective, the primary objective was that. The president made us aware of that multiple times. And I would say that the objective would be not achieved, that we would have fallen short of achieving the primary goal of eliminating forever, permanently, the threat. I'm just concerned that they say, yeah, we're not going to build a nuclear weapon. You've been saying that. And as soon as you get the capability to do so, you will, and I believe they will use it. I really do. So I think the president's right in going after them in that respect to eliminate that threat. I think the world is way better off without having to worry about that all the time and spend time and money on it. No doubt about it. They're a menace in that respect. But this idea that, yeah, we're just enriching uranium for positive, beneficial purposes such as nuclear power, mark me down as skeptical on that one, I guess I would say. Man, oh man. Louis from the 662 says, we're going to bomb your infrastructure into oblivion and then pay to rebuild your infrastructure. Yeah, I hear you, Louis, and I think that would be unpopular if it turns out the United States provides any amount of funding after this deal. I don't think that would be received well. I don't. But it's unclear at this point. I don't want to take a stand one way or another on it. Maybe Mark Vargas, when he comes on in the next segment, he's way more informed on these matters than certainly we are, and hopefully he can shed some light on this. I'm not sure what to think at this point, but
it would be unpopular, but it's not all that unusual in how America fights wars.
Okay.
If you look at the global war on terror on 2 fronts, in Afghanistan and Iraq, both of those fronts, you would have soldiers move into a position in a family's house and stay in that position all day, leave that position, and within a day or two, someone else is showing up at that family's house to pay to fix anything the soldiers broke.
Yeah. That's a good
and we did
analogy.
that for 20 years.
That's so true. Now, Paula Meridian says, so if this nuclear material is buried so deep underground, why don't they just drop some bunker busters on there to bury it where it can never be uncovered? Yeah, I don't know. That's above my pay grade from a military operation perspective. I know the president has said that only this country and China have the ability, the technical ability, the assets, the resources, the capability to extract this material, to excavate it was the word he used. I said that yesterday. from underneath this mountain, wherever it's stored. So that indicates to me we know where it is. The use of bunker busters, I don't know. That's a question for someone that understands more how those things work and whether or not that would do the trick, I guess. But good question, though.
I think the wrinkle to that is Iran has proven they don't care about their people.
Yeah.
And the reason that I've seen reported that the U.S. and China are the only two real countries that could excavate it are because of our capabilities in remote work, remote excavation. Iran, you could send a dozen bunker busters, bury it half a mile deep. They'll just send thousands of their people to die digging in the radioactive dirt to get it back out.
Yeah.
Whereas America or China, I don't think China is going to be at the table, but we could, from a location not even in Iran, send remote control excavators in, dig it up, bring it to the border, pick it up at the border and leave without ever putting any Americans in country.
That is true. Now, does that mean it's over? I'm not sure. I mean, that's it. That's likely classified information that we don't know about. But yeah, we do have such technology, such capability. It's and so you wonder, why don't we do that today? I don't know. Those are just questions that I don't know that we'll get to ask the people who can answer them. I'll try that with Mark and see what he can shed with respect to some insight on that. Call Maverick back up. He could do it on the C Spire text line. Johnny in West Point, I question how long it will take to get the material and get it out. I don't know. The U.S. this is on the C Spire text line. The U.S. has always helped rebuild the defeated. Germany, Japan. I think attitudes have changed, honestly, since then. And I would say that, Rhino, because since the 40s and after the war into the 50s, when we did that, I think people are just so shy about and so put out about all the money we've sent overseas, and you have a hard time putting your finger on how did it help us, right? So, and then it's all the dang scamming and the fraud and the waste of that money, much of it ending up in the pockets of the corrupt leadership of these countries, not really going for its intended purpose. I think people are just leery. They're worried about that. Yeah, we sent them $300 billion. Is that really going to be used? And then the other thing is, Germany and Japan, it was felt were sort of forced into the war by people who took control of the countries, that the people in general wanted to be our allies. I'm not sure that's the case here. Coming right back with Mark Vargas.
From the Seabrook.com.
Hey, is everybody ready?
I'm ready.
Ready here.
Middays with Gerard Gibert on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from the Element Wealth Studio. Thanks so much for joining us. We're pleased to welcome now Mark Vargas, Iraq Task Force, also served in the Office of the Secretary of War, 2007, 2010. Mark, good to see you. Thanks for coming on.
It's great to be with you. Thank you.
All right, so I was just in the prior segment was reviewing this piece in the Wall Street Journal. Really well done. It seems at least to capture all the major provisions of the draft of this MOU with Iran, and some things are not surprising. Hey, we're going to cease hostilities. Well, yeah, that's pretty fundamental to what we're talking about here. But a couple of things that caught our eye that we've been discussing is, are we really achieving the objective of ending Iran's nuclear ambitions, nuclear capabilities? That's number one. And number two is this country going to provide any funding to Iran to rebuild, to rehabilitate? And reading the provision, it's not clear, honestly. So what's your take on all this?
Well, number one, it's historic that we're even at this point. No president in nearly 50 years has ever gotten this terrorist regime to the table to agree to these concessions in this framework of an MOU. And let's not forget, this MOU is sort of a 60-day window, and it could be extended. But this is really just sort of the entree, the appetizer, to provide the framework and the bumpers and guardrails for a larger and more substantive long-term peace deal. But the fact that we're at this point with the Iranian regime is absolutely remarkable, and only because of President Donald Trump's leadership. As it relates to the question, and this is on everybody's mind, and the president at the G7 reiterated to this is not U.S. taxpayer dollars that are going to go as part of reconstruction. That was a lesson I learned in Iraq, converting a war front into a storefront. That's been a part of President Trump's peace negotiations and peace deals that he's signed throughout the world. But this is where the importance of the Gulf states, who have a lot of money. They have a ton of money in the Gulf states, and it's their prerogative. It's in their own interests, in their own backyard, to create economic opportunities, investment opportunities for Iran. But the Gulf partners know that the Iranians have to meet certain criteria and benchmarks. This is going to be like Obama giving them $1.7 billion and saying, have a great day. There's going to be benchmarks to every dollar that is released from the Gulf region, not from the United States. And so, again, President Trump is aware of the lessons of Iraq and Afghanistan, the lessons of Barack Obama handing $1 billion over, and it was used against us. And so, absolutely not. This money is not going to be used. U.S. taxpayer money is not going to be used to help prop up Iran.
Okay. Well, I think you know that I don't think that would be a popular move in general with the American people. And I was saying in the last segment, I think that our views there are shaped by this massive amount of money that has just flowed out of this country to a number of foreign nations for crazy stuff during the Biden administration and when Democrats were in control that just startle Americans when they hear about it. And we're not getting any benefit from it.
Yeah. Well, again, President Trump has reiterated no money, but think for the Iran post peace agreement. But think about this: at the end of the day, what's happened in Iran does impact us. I mean, think about the millions of lives that have been taken because of this Iranian regime. Over 600 U.S. service members. I mean, I would say just one deliberate killing of a U.S. service member is an act of war. Over 600 have been killed. Thousands more permanently injured. And so you just think about they were the mothership of terrorism throughout the entire world.
Yeah.
And the fact that regime is now gone means that your children and grandchildren and their grandchildren will live in a much safer world because of the actions of President Trump and the leadership of cutting off the head of the snake.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt about that, and he really the only one that had the fortitude to do something that his predecessors simply would not do, a line they would not cross. It even made you wonder, did they even care about that, thinking it might be politically unpopular? I agree. This isn't a president that measures his actions on the basis of what's politically popular or not. He makes these decisions on the basis of what he believes is in the best interest of the country and Americans. And I think that decision was made here. Are you concerned, however, that they're not really going to dismantle their nuclear program, Mark? What do you think happens?
I'm not concerned at all because, President Trump, wrote the best-selling book, The Art of the Deal, but he's also, particularly in his second term of presidency, he's created the art of unpredictability. And that is such a powerful negotiating tactic. And that's what's really going to keep Iran in line. Again, think about this. For nearly 50 years, there's been no leadership on the world stage to bring an end to this terrorist regime. It was only Donald Trump. And so this is why we're even at this historic moment we're just perhaps a day or days away from this signing of this MOU and to begin the discussions for a formal peace plan. The only reason why we're here is because Donald Trump used force without having to send in any troops. If you remember, Gerard, this is the Iraq war. Yeah. There's going to be troops on the ground. There wasn't one troop on the ground, and we've won this war. This was an aerial campaign. And so the whole Gulf region is going to be incentivized to make sure that the old regime doesn't ever come back. And they know that they've got President Trump monitoring this situation in real time. And if they step out of line to this MOU or this peace agreement, President Trump said, I think just hours ago, he'll drop bombs right on top of their heads. And they know that he's not kidding. And that's such an important tactic in negotiations. They know this guy's not joking around, and he's not afraid to press the big red button. Very helpful in negotiations and in these discussions.
You're right. I heard him say that just this morning. So Mark, you have great knowledge of kind of the landscape of the region there. Does Saudi Arabia, UAE, the other more reasonable nations in that part of the country, do they also see Iran as just a big menace that we do here in this country?
No, without a doubt. That entire region. I mean, think about the only reason, Gerard, that we have bases in that part of the world is to protect them and us from Iranian missiles and rockets.
Yeah.
And so, but the foreign policy of presidents on both sides of the aisle for nearly the 50 years has been, let's just let the next administration worry about it. Let's just kick the can down the road. Let's give them money and just make it appear as if we're trying to solve this problem so I can maybe score some political points back home, but I don't really want to solve the issue. And so that's why President Trump has so much respect. I mean, he jokingly said it's a sense of humor when he walked into G7, I'm the boss, right? He was the last person to walk in. I'm the boss. It's funny, and he's doing that on purpose, but there's no doubt every world leader knows Donald Trump is the boss, and no one could have accomplished what he's done. And think about Hamas and Israel. Think about now we've got Iran and the 7 or 8 peace agreements he's negotiated from Cambodia to Rwanda to Vietnam to Addis Ababa, Ethiopia.
Yep.
I mean, I'm stuttering because it's just all over the globe, right? It's like you can't even put your thoughts into words because he's negotiated so many of these treaties and stopped so many wars in just his first year in office. It really is remarkable what he's accomplished.
The president of the United States should tell all the leaders at the G7 summit, I'm the boss. That is the appropriate position for this country. And I remember this vividly when the president attended his first. I've talked about this on the show. You may remember it, Mark, when they were walking from one location to another as part of the summit, and he looked up and found that he was kind of trailing the other leaders, and he quickly, he pushed up his tie, his coat, started shouldering them out of the way, moving himself to the front of the line. That's what the American president should do.
We're the biggest, we're the strongest, we're the greatest military in the history of the world. And a regime, and knowing that when I was in Iraq as a civilian, 07 to 10, as I shared with you before on your show, the rockets and mortars targeting American service members, American civilians like myself, American contractors, all made in Iran. The route average, the 3.5 mile strip of road from the airport, IEDs littered, all made in Iran. And so, again, President Trump, no one else wanted to solve this problem. It was only President Trump. And the Iranian regime only respects one thing: brute force and power. That's it, right? And they know when leaders are weak, and they know when leaders are strong. And this is why we're at the point where we're at right now with this MOU and eventual peace agreement, because President Trump uses brute force and strong words for the first time. They don't know how to deal with them other than to oblige.
We got about 30 seconds left, Mark, but I got to ask you this. Do you think we'll see Iran return to the more civilized, capitalistic, almost Western-looking nation it was in the early 70s? It was a thriving country.
100%. Absolutely. And the Iranian people want that. Look at all the celebrations throughout the world, and even in very blue cities all around the world, of people celebrating the death of the Ayatollah when President Trump gave the authority to bomb the heck out of him. This is a country, 40,000 of their own people have been brutally murdered over the last 6 months. Millions have been killed. They want freedom. They want democracy. They want to stand up on their own without having to look behind their back.
Man, I pray that's the case. The world would be better off. Mark, thanks for joining us. Really appreciate the insight. Thanks a lot.
God bless you. Thank you. Mark
Vargas, Iraq Task Force, Office of the Secretary of War, 2007-10. Coming back.
Please be advised.
It's so awesome! Middays with Gerard Gibert.
Come on, let's get on with the show.
On SuperTalk, Mississippi.
I do believe in you, and I know you believe in me. Oh, yeah.
Chicago bumping us into this segment. Stronger every day. I'm going to guess that was 72. What'd you say?
73.
Gosh, dog it. I missed it by one.
On Chicago 6.
Certainly remember that. Yeah. I think, as I recall, the album cover had the script of that you typically see of the word Chicago, the band's name, and then the Roman numeral 6 on it, right? Do you see that? You look at
that's one of the variations. I'm looking at one that looks like a old-timey postage stamp with a picture of the band on it. I remember seeing that variant,
too.
yeah.
Yeah, I remember that too. Great tune. Oh, Stronger Every Day. Appreciate that, Rhino. We're back with you in the Element Wealth studio. Don't forget, Henry Barbour joins us in the next segment. He, of course, a GOP strategist, a Mississippi delegate to the RNC Convention. We'll hear his thoughts on the political landscape in the state and in the country. Ricky in Aberdeen says, I disagree that the Iranian people really want to return to how it was in the 70s, or they would have done more during the recent fighting. I think the fear, though, Ricky, is that the regime still seems to have control over whatever they call it, their guard, Republican Guard or something like that, and that they would order literally beheadings. And that fear just seems to stand in the way and just block them from taking action or expressing any desire to convert back to a more civilized, less primitive culture. Because it's primitive.
And a different angle on that is a lot of Iranian people of Persian heritage left Iran.
That's true.
After the revolution.
Yeah.
And, I mean, you saw it at the World Cup match with Iran playing out in California. The Iranian diaspora were passing out T-shirts of all of the Iranian civilians with their faces on it and their names and their date of birth and the date they were killed on it, of civilians killed in the last couple of years by the IRGC.
Yeah.
And that same diaspora was told by FIFA, you cannot bring in the Persian flag. You have to bring in the IRGC flag because they don't do politics at the World Cup with that kind of stuff. The diaspora were bringing in strips of the flag with the Royal Persian lion on it, sewing it back together in the stands just to get it through security. So there are definitely Iranians in the diaspora that would love to see it return to a pre-regime status.
It wouldn't surprise me if the Guard, I mean, these are the folks with the weapons and the might and the strength, if they're not being bribed, if there's some compensation, remuneration going on there from the regime to keep them in line on their side. Because the day that breaks and you have essentially an overthrow, a mutiny, then I think you'll see the rank and file Iranian citizens say, yeah, this is what we want. There's just no way I can believe that in general they enjoy that lifestyle, that oppression, that suppression. I just think innately humans long for freedom. It doesn't matter what the culture is. It doesn't matter the country. It's just built into our DNA. It's just common sense, honestly. So I hear you, Ricky. And you may be right. I hope you're wrong. I really do. I think about, you and I have talked about it before. You look back at some still photos and videos showing Tehran. It looks like any American city, honestly. You look at the way folks are dressed and kept, and just the vibrancy in the streets, the shops, and so forth. Looks like an American city. But that all changed when the nutcases got in charge. And hopefully we will return to that. And I agree with Mark Vargas that you got to give it to the president for having the cojones to take this action. That was brave, and he's right. In the past, it was just kick the can down the road. But I think we want to see results. We want to see positive benefit results. If one of those is as Mark says, our members of our service, even our civilian citizens, aren't targets, aren't in harm's way. That's a huge accomplishment, no doubt. Getting the strait back open, but I think beyond that, totally eliminating their nuclear capability, and I think the icing on the cake would be if they converted back to a more modern civilization. We'd all benefit from that. Fox News, SuperTalk News is coming up next, and then it's Henry Barbour. Stay with us. Of Middays with Gerard Gibert is brought to you by the Mississippi Business Journal. Visit msbusinessjournal.com. Scott Coopwood, publisher and president.
Welcome to the show that challenges you to think deeply and look beyond political posturing. You're listening to Middays with Gerard Gibert here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's hour 2 of Middays, live from the Element Wealth Studio on this
Hump Day.
We're pleased to welcome now Henry Barbour, a GOP strategist, also a Mississippi delegate to the RNC Convention, and a soothsayer of all things politics. I appreciate you coming in, Henry. Good to see you, as always. So just wanted to point this out. Looking at the screen in the studio, the president is speaking right now from the G7 summit in France. I see him flanked by Secretary of State Marco Rubio and also Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick. And he says, I don't want to see an economic catastrophe, is kind of the subject of his remarks. Now, that is appropriate for the G7 summit, but we'll see where all this goes. Appreciate you coming in. First, your thoughts about the president's actions in Iran and what appears to be an MOU that will have some ink on the paper Friday, is what all the reports indicate. What do you think?
Well, look, anytime when we got bombs flying and we say we're going to stop, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And we would like to see the economy and things kind of settle down and the Dow Jones, as we were just saying, all fair, that, that's sort of like that scoreboard, and how people keep track of even how a president is doing. And Donald Trump's paying close attention to it. But it's a good development, and the Iranians are, have come to the table. We've come to the table. We both have got some leverage. We got our military, and they have kind of the on-off switch of the Strait of Hormuz, and so both sides have got some leverage. Both want this to be done. I mean, we really pounded Iran. I mean, and the losses there are significant, and I don't know. I guess the one thing that I would say, and I told you this too, is the one thing we know is Iran, and this regime in particular, hates the United States almost as much as they hate Israel. And that's not changing with them in any MOU. We can't trust them. But an MOU is a step in the right direction. It's progress. It's always better to be talking to folks than shooting at them.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like that certainly our military action, which has caused significant damage in the country, but also the president kind of used the old Ronald Reagan tactic of just taking down their economy. I mean, he brought down the Soviet Union without ever firing a shot, just because of the various economic actions he took. And that's kind of happening here. It is happening in a big way. I think that's a good strategy and a good scheme. And you got to believe to some extent, Henry, that's why the regime is saying, yeah, uncle, we got to do something.
Yeah. Yeah, they're hurting physically, economically.
Yeah.
They got big problems over there, and I think we are so insulated as Americans. The fact that we're in North America and we got oceans on either side of us, we are really seriously insulated from a lot of things that other countries have to deal with. I mean, even if you think about Europe and those that aren't that far from Ukraine, they're always wondering, well, are the Russians, if you're the Poles, are they thinking, well, are the Russians going to stop in Ukraine? Or
Absolutely.
And we just don't. We are a lot more comfortable, and for me personally, I'm a lot more comfortable. I take things for granted, and 250 years ago, it wasn't that way, right?
That's true.
Our people before us, they had to fight for liberty, and they had to make a decision that, what, the cost of liberty is high, but it's the cost we're willing to pay.
Yeah.
And our founding fathers and those that fought in that American Revolution, their reality very different from ours 250 years later.
So true. And of course, we've been talking a lot about the World Cup. Rhino, a huge soccer fan, and does a great job of tracking all that. But to your point, all the fans that are here for the first time, coming from these other countries, are astonished. They're finding out that this is a pretty good place, much better than is often portrayed in other countries. I feel the same way about Mississippi. I think you and I would both agree with that we know what a great place it is, but we go around the country. You've traveled a lot, I have too, and their perception is wrong. And they come here and say, well, it's not like that at all. We know. We've been telling you that. It's been fascinating.
It has been, and it's good. It's good for America to be hosting these games, and I'm afraid, Rhino, I haven't been watching, but it is a great sport, and I certainly acknowledge that. And it's a lot of passion, and it's great for folks from other countries to come here and to learn that, what, those Americans aren't so bad.
Yeah.
And they've got some pretty cool stuff too. And certainly for Mississippi, it's always good, particularly when you live in a small town like I do in Yazoo City. You always want folks to come because they realize, well, wait a minute, these people aren't what I was expecting.
Yeah.
And in the town even, and in the Delta.
Yeah.
I live right there on the edge of it. It is healthy.
Yeah.
And we got good people here.
No doubt about it. No, I was in Vicksburg all last week, was honored to be a judge in the Miss Mississippi Teen Pageant. And I'm telling you, the town, everybody just rolled out the red carpet for us. Just fantastic. And it's so much history in Vicksburg, you sometimes forget about it. It's on 45 miles away. How much history there is. That was a big factor in the nation today as it is shaped. That happened in Vicksburg.
Big time.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah. Yes, the siege. And I will say Vicksburg is a town that is really prospering, and I will say Warren County the same. They've got really good local leadership, and they benefit from being right there on the river. And having the Corps of Engineers there. I think they've got more engineers per capita than any other city in the country. That's what they say.
Yeah.
They're marketing people. I believe it. If it's not true, it ought to be true. Briggs Hobson and others that represent that area.
I think it is.
Yeah, I'm sure
it's awesome,
it is.
Though.
But yes. Mississippi's got a lot going for it, and it's interesting to see those river cruises coming down the Mississippi and stopping at places like Natchez and Vicksburg and even in the Delta.
Yeah, and just another example of so many thriving downtown areas that we have in our small communities in this state. It's just so good to see them doing well.
It is, and I'm tickled that to see AWS investing big dollars over there. I will say, for those of us that live in the smaller towns, we are struggling economically. Yeah, and the Metro Jackson area, DeSoto County, the coast, they benefit from bigger projects. And, AWS put $25 billion plus into Madison, Clinton, Vicksburg. And so, Governor Reeves, if you're listening, you might want to, if you got one, you might want to send it Yazoo City's way. We're ready.
Yeah. Oh, I think we'll see more. I really do. I think these investments will serve. I said this from the beginning when Amazon announced the first one will be a springboard for future investments. But there are lots of other ancillary related industries as well, complementary industries that we're starting to see spring up around this, and I think that momentum's going to continue.
Yeah, and I will say Governor Reeves deserves a lot of credit for leading on this. There are some governors who are a little willy-nilly about data centers, and I will just tell you, speaking for Yazoo County, we want it to come, and we realize that the benefits far outweigh any of the things that people talk about on social media that are negatives.
I got it on the list for you and I to talk about, so we're taking a break right here. We'll keep talking with Henry Barbour here in the Element Well studio. Coming right back.
This program.
Gerard Gibert.
Here we go.
This is huge. Huge news. Huge news. Huge.
You need to listen to this.
Middays with Gerard. SuperTalk, Mississippi.
So don't stop me now. Don't stop me, 'cause I'm having a good time. Having a good time. Shooting star leaping through the sky like a tiger, defying the laws of gravity.
We're back in the Element Well studio. We're visiting with Henry Barbour, GOP Strategist, of course, a Mississippi delegate to the RNC Convention. What did you think about the primaries yesterday? Anything surprise you, Henry? I think the Georgia governor's race, maybe a little surprising. The business person that invested a bunch of their own money, spent about $100 million, I think, last I looked on the race, ended up winning the primary there.
Yeah, and you just said $100 million.
$100 million. It's crazy.
I mean, it's just like, wait a minute. Let's not just roll past $100 million. I mean, it's just extraordinary, and the amount of money that are spent in certain states.
Yeah,
Mississippi hadn't seen that. We've seen significant dollars, but
not $100 million.
$100 million.
Right.
I mean, it's just. That's incredible. But that is a state where President Trump candidate did not win. And
Burt Jones, the lieutenant governor. Yeah,
lieutenant governor. And I think, he had a little bit of baggage that caused problems for him. And I think the American people are hungry for fresh faces and not necessarily just the next person in line in state government.
100%.
Yeah.
Totally agree with that.
And we'll see, and how that affects Mississippi.
Isn't that how Trump got elected?
Well, it's totally how Trump got elected.
Yeah.
And how Trump got elected is he handed all those folks who were in line, starting with Jeb Bush, who I'm a big fan of, but he handed them their heads in the debates, and they did not know what to do with him. And Donald Trump, in 16, that was a significant political event. We had never seen anything quite like that. And I'm talking about the primary, especially. Right. The general was kind of a different thing.
Yeah.
But he deserves a lot of credit, and for what he did for the party. I think in shifting our focus as a Republican Party back to working class folks and not just Wall Street. And I think the Republican Party had become a little too cozy with the country club and Wall Street, and I think it's healthy to broaden that. And not that I agree with Donald Trump on everything, because I don't, but he deserves, I think, real credit for that.
Well, I agree, and I remember that debate vividly. I'm sure you do too. I think there were 17 of them on the stage, as I recall, and man, he had every one of them pegged. And you're right, they looked like they'd just been hit by a bulldozer. Didn't know what to think.
They did not, and I think at
or
that
how
time,
to respond.
Yes, and I think at that time, political operatives, strategists, people in that world, and Jeb had $100+ million sitting in his super PAC. They weren't quite sure. Is this really going to work? I mean, is this really happening? And obviously it did. And Trump, somewhat like Obama, I think nothing stuck to him.
Right.
And he would just say things like, well, I gave Hillary Clinton money, but I mean, because I needed to buy influence. And that may not be a quote, but that's pretty much what he said. And he just was able to get away with things that politicians before hadn't. And he has been pretty much ever since. He has broken a lot of the sort of understandings that people have about campaigns, and they didn't know how to deal with him, and I don't know that anybody really knows how to deal with him now, and including the White House staff. I mean, they can't control him. I mean, they think they're going to talk about one issue, and then two that morning before he's on Truth Social, posting about something completely unrelated, and typically that the White House staff probably thinks is unproductive.
Coming from his own fingers, as you know, not somebody else's that's controlling his account.
Yeah,
which is unique unto itself.
Yeah.
Back to this race in Georgia. Just get your thoughts on this, Henry. You talked about, and we've been talking about Donald Trump being an outsider and clearing the field of well-known political candidates that had a legacy in politics, such as Jeb Bush, thought to be the heir apparent. Our party, I feel like, has a little too much next person in line in it. And this situation where this businessman, Rick Jackson, defeated the Trump-endorsed lieutenant governor, I wonder if that's because he is an outsider and he was able to actually contrast or actually compare himself favorably, not contrast, but compare himself favorably to the president. I guess what I'm saying is if it were two political candidates, let's take Texas, Cornyn and Paxton. Trump throws his weight behind Paxton, Cornyn's out. But if it weren't Cornyn and it were a political outsider, maybe it's different.
Yeah, I will say I think the Cornyn race, Trump jumped in at the very end, and that race was already done.
Okay.
I think.
Okay.
But make no mistake that Donald Trump has got the most influence on Republican primary voters of anybody in the country.
I totally agree, no doubt.
But I do agree with you that voters are looking for other options, and all of a sudden, I'll just say wealthy people like Rick Jackson realize, I could run for that.
Yeah, billionaire.
We got Tommy Duff thinking about that next year. We got other people. Some people say you might be thinking about it. And it has been demonstrated in other states and certainly nationally that model can work. But you've got to be able to perform. You got to understand the issues. You got to connect. And one thing that Trump did in that 2016 primary, he started talking about some issues, particularly immigration, that connected with the primary voters. And so money's not the only thing. You got to connect. You got to connect on the issues, and people got to be convinced. We're going to get results with this person.
Yeah,
they're not going to do things just the same old way, and so our political campaigns are quite different from even 10, 15 years ago, or I'll say 15 anyway. Pre-16. Everything changed.
I agree. I can't recall a president having this much power from an endorsement as Donald Trump on any candidate in any race.
Yeah, and I don't think we've ever seen a president so willing and eager to jump into races. True. And sometimes it's because he wants to build political power, and sometimes it's settling scores.
It's true.
Because if you don't
Cornyn, Paxton.
Yes, for sure. If you don't bend the knee sufficiently, which this is Senator Cornyn from Texas, who if I was a Texan, I would have voted for Cornyn, just to be clear. But Senator Cornyn wasn't exactly a knee bender to Trump, even though he voted with him 99% of the time.
Yeah.
And not only that, I mean, he raised money for all his fellow Republicans in the Senate, did a lot of work to help keep it the majority. And I will say, Paxton, who's got a lot of baggage, we're going to have to spend north of $100 million that could have been spent in other places, like, maybe winning the seat back in Georgia or Michigan, and holding the seat in Iowa.
That's a tough one.
So, I'm not a big fan of the Paxton thing. It is what it is, but there's no doubt about it that Donald Trump has more influence than any president, Republican or Democrat, that I've seen in my lifetime, and I've been around for a minute.
Yeah, I agree. That particular race in Texas, I know you said $100 million, but that's from the party. This thing may be $1 billion before it's all over.
No, it's extraordinary how much money is getting spent. The Senate race in South Carolina just a few years ago was over $200 million.
Yeah,
South Carolina, pretty similar to Mississippi as far as size. So, it's gotten.
Senate race in North Carolina is going to probably approach $1 billion as well.
Yeah, and that's a race where Senator Tillis is stepping down. He's had enough. We're going to have a hard time holding that against a former Democrat governor.
Popular governor.
Yes, that's going to be a tough one for us to hold on to.
Can you stay with us?
Sure.
Let's on the other side of the break, we'll dig into the kind of the state political landscape with the fair coming up next week, and continue our discussion about data centers with Henry Barbour in the Element Wealth studio.
From the Seabrook Gerard Gibert. He keeps his classified documents right where they belong. Inside a Journey record jacket from the 1980s. Gerard Gibert, SuperTalk, Mississippi.
We're back with you in the Element Wealth studio. We're talking to Henry Barbour, GOP Strategist, a delegate to the RNC Convention. And, boy, that was a lot of fun in 24 up there, Henry. I enjoyed it. I was honored to be a delegate as well and enjoyed visiting with you and all the other delegates. I thought we had a good group, a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's a great experience, getting to go to a national convention. I've been to every convention going back to 96. And I'm still mad. I worked on the 92 campaign here in Mississippi, and my boss at the time, John Coley, wouldn't let me go to New Orleans. So I'm still mad at him. And that was 88. 92 was my first convention.
Okay,
I
gotcha.
got a little confused.
Yeah.
But anyway, but it is a lot of fun, and I will say for people that get involved in politics, it's not easy to be a delegate to the National Convention, but it's something to aspire to and work towards. And there's a process there that it's a doable thing, but it is a lot of fun.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
It was neat. I thoroughly enjoyed it. So, a little different this year. We got the fair coming up next week, as we talked about, and of course, the rules, as you know, of the folks that run the fair. Representative Scott Bounds, he's the president of the fair. It's pretty straightforward. If you currently represent Neshoba County in any way, you can sign up to speak. As a candidate which would ultimately represent Neshoba County, you're only allowed to speak during the election year. It's the way the rules work. So what we'll see next week, or you've seen the schedule already, or kind of the slate of Mississippi's statewide leadership that represents Neshoba County and local leaders to the county as well. We got at least one candidate that will be speaking next week, Commissioner Andy Gibson, who's already announced his candidacy for governor. Don't think anybody else that has. Philip Gunn, as you know, former Speaker of the House, not slated to speak because he doesn't currently represent Neshoba County. We got Secretary of State Michael Watson, who's announced for lieutenant governor, and then the list continues on from there.
Right.
I think Auditor Shad White is away at guard duty, if I'm not mistaken, now. So.
That's my understanding, and of course Lynn Fitch, the
Attorney General, yeah,
she'll be there.
Yeah,
and people believe that Lynn Fitch and Shad White and Delbert Hoseman are planning to run for governor. That doesn't mean they will run for governor, but they are planning. And to Delbert and Shad and Lynn's credit, they have hustled on the fundraising side. Delbert's got $3 million. Shad and Lynn each have something north of $4 million, and that's a lot of money. We have never seen this kind of money, going into a governor's race, this level. Tate was a prolific fundraiser, but we've never seen in an open race this many people with this much money. And then, of course, with Tommy Duff thinking about getting in, I mean, Tommy Duff could spend $12 million in material to him, and so we're going to have quite a race in 27, and it's in many ways will kick off next week in Neshoba, and one of the great political events in the country.
No doubt about it. Look forward to it. And, of course, many, after they complete their speaking, head over to our set because it gets started about the time we go live, and we talk to them a little bit. So should be fun, should be interesting. Let's talk about the current year. We got the midterms coming up. Where do you think the Republicans stand on retaining the House? Typically, as you know, it does flip from the party that's occupying the White House. That means that we would transition to Democrat control. And then the U.S. Senate, we got 33 seats being contested. It feels like it's going to be a tough ordeal.
Yeah, and I think 36 governor's races on top of that.
Oh, yeah, right.
There's a lot going on. I worry as a Republican that we're in trouble in the House. Now, all this redistricting stuff that has happened around the country and what the Supreme Court has decided, I'm worried that Republicans, if we voted today, would not be able to hold a majority. Now, we got a long time till November. And we'll see, this MOU with Iran, can President Trump kind of get things turned around and get things moving in the right direction? We talked about the Dow Jones as a scoreboard. We also know that the price of gas is another scoreboard that affects folks. And that's all going to have a big impact, I think, on Republicans. And Trump not on the ballot, so a lot of Republicans will just not show up. I mean, honestly, if you look at Mississippi, who's going to go vote in November? Who's going to be motivated to vote? You got Cindy Hyde-Smith up. You got House races. But how competitive will these be? Now, the Democrats may come in and spend a lot of money trying to take out Cindy Hyde-Smith because Mississippi is sort of an inexpensive state to play.
Yeah.
And Republicans better be prepared for that, and they better get out and turn out for Cindy Hyde-Smith because certainly Republicans can't afford to lose her seat. But I worry about turnout in our state, but I worry about turnout overall. And then, so generally, I'm pessimistic that Mike Johnson will be the speaker come January. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but we, as Republicans, we better get to work. The Senate, I feel better about, but it's at risk for sure. And I mentioned in the last segment, Paxson being the nominee in Texas means we're going to spend, more money over there. I said $100 million, and I think in the off air, I think you said more, maybe closer to $1 billion. And
between the two candidates, yeah.
Yes, exactly. And this stuff's expensive. And anyway, I'm generally feel like the political environment just favors the Democrats right now. Their problem is, particularly when you get in a national election, is I'm not sure the Democrats are capable of nominating anybody who can relate to the average
just
American.
A likable candidate.
Yeah. They got the Bernie Sanders and the AOCs, and they're just so far out there. And you got Socialist Mondami in New York. I'm just not sure these people will connect. And, that was their problem, I think, in 24. Biden hadn't performed well, and then Kamala Harris just couldn't connect. And she just didn't have the game. And but so as we think about 28 in the White House, I think the Democrats, it's sort of their turn, and the political environment ought to favor them, but they better go nominate somebody like the governor of Pennsylvania, not the governor of California.
I totally agree. And I said even prior to the last cycle, if Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania, he is well liked. He's the total package. I don't agree with him on policy, but you can't dismiss that the guy has the ingredients to be an effective politician.
Yes, he can connect, and I think he can connect. It reminds me of Bill Clinton.
Yeah.
They're a little bit different in style, but Clinton was able to connect with Americans across the spectrum. Ronald Reagan was able to do that.
Yeah.
Donald Trump certainly did that in 24. You see, minority voters, coming out and voting for Republicans, Hispanics, blacks, Asians, moving. Now, they've kind of moved back in the other direction because, Trump's overall approval rating is low. And that's a pretty good barometer for, this fall. But we'll see.
Yeah.
We got a lot to do. But American people want results.
Yeah, I agree. Senate seats at risk. Iowa, you have to put that in the risk category. North Carolina, Maine.
I worry about
Texas.
North Carolina. I think Nancy Collins will hold on.
You do? Susan Collins.
Yes, Susan Collins. Nancy Collins, God bless her, whoever she is. Yes, Susan Collins, thank you. And
you think she'll hold on? Okay.
I do.
Okay.
I do.
Good.
I do.
Because the other guy, Platter's a nut.
She's very independent. Yes, he is he's got serious
and
baggage.
Lacks character on top of it.
Yes,
so,
and she's got a lot of character.
Yeah, I agree.
She's a moderate, but that's fits that state.
Probably the best Republicans can do in the state of Maine. Would
100%.
Yeah. Alaska, similar with Murkowski.
Yeah.
But stick around. I didn't get to the data center question. You and I need to talk about that.
All
We
right.
got the final segment of the hour coming up next. We got Henry Barbour in the Element Well studio.
Even if the sun don't shine, well, it's alright. We're going to the end of the line.
Poly up a Mississippi.
Bring the stories that matter most to Mississippians. Gerard Gibert, Middays with Gerard, SuperTalk, Mississippi.
We're back with you in the Element Well studio. So, this whole issue of data centers, the first thing I want to point out is that Mississippi residents are suing XAI over noise complaints. That's the installation in DeSoto County from Elon Musk. And as you know, Henry, that he was in a hurry to get these facilities up, and so couldn't wait on the power company to provision the additional generation capacity needed to power the facilities. And so he went and just installed temporary gas turbines, and they're loud, they're noisy. Has an exemption under EPA guidelines and state environmental guidelines as well for a year. So all this ends sometime early next year, but it's got lots of people upset, rightfully so, honestly.
Well, sure. I mean, if you live close to that, you're affected by it.
Yeah.
24/7, and that's an issue. And those sorts of solutions, because these folks are in a big hurry, hurt data center.
Yeah.
Overall. And if you look at what AWS is doing here in Metro Jackson and Vicksburg, that's a different model.
Yep.
And it's a model where, we've heard Haley Versackley and folks at Entergy say on the record that in Arkansas and I think Louisiana and Mississippi, ratepayers' rates are not going to go up, they're going to go down.
Well, actually, what they said is increase at a slower rate of increase. Not actually go down, but they've made the point, electricity is also inflation bound, and so it constantly goes up, but won't go up as fast and as much.
I didn't say that correctly, and thank you.
I just want to make sure.
But I think the right way, I would say it as a political operative, is they're going to save money.
Yeah, absolutely right.
And that's
correct.
a fact.
Yes, that is absolutely right.
That's a better way to
100%. You're right.
Without these, you wouldn't have these big payers coming in to spread out the cost.
That's right.
And these grids and infrastructure, it's expensive to maintain all this. So when you get somebody coming in investing billions of dollars, and they're paying for the expansion and upgrades of the grid and infrastructure, that has a positive impact. And people talk about water, and my understanding is these technologies are advancing steadily and rapidly, and the usage of water is going down, not up.
That's right.
And to compare the usage of water from a data center to, I'll just say, a turf farm, data center on the same little plot of, say, 1,000 acres, I think 9 times out of 10, if not 10 out of 10, would use less water.
That's right.
Than the turf farm. And nothing against turf farms. I mean, you got to water
different
grass.
models. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. But I think the significant thing for me, and the reason that I'm so pleased about Governor Reeves' leadership on this issue, is the long-term tax benefits at the county level, at the local level, are really just huge. And if you take 2,000 acres and you compare it, as farmland to what the data center is going to generate as far as tax revenues. They're going to go to your roads, your bridges, your police, schools. It's not even close. And that's, again, nothing against farms. I mean, look, I'm from Yazoo County.
Purpose.
We got all kind of farms. But again, Yazoo County, we're open for business over there. Mr. Elon Musk, you want to come knock on our door, come on.
But there are false narratives where people are saying they're not paying any taxes, and that's not true. The corporate income tax to the state, yes, they have an exemption for that. But the ad valorem taxes are massive that these guys are paying because it's massive accessible value of investment, real and personal property, and that's why. Yeah,
and I do think, though, the national mood against data centers is obviously quite negative.
Yeah.
And I do think these tech firms have got something to think about. Are the incentives or getting sort of maximizing the incentives worth what it would be to have a really good community partnership?
I agree. Totally.
And so there's a balance there, both with the county and with the tech firm that, is negotiating these abatement agreements, is how do you balance that in the right way so you have a really good community partnership in what right now is a negative political environment for data centers. And so I think, both sides have got to play ball there.
I totally agree. I know from my conversations with AWS, they get that. They want to be good community citizens and partners.
We're blessed. We're blessed that I think, Amazon, AWS, being here is a big investor in our state.
Thanks for coming on, Henry. Good talking to you, man. Appreciate
Thank you, Gerard.
it. Coming right back after Fox News, Super Talk News.
Get ready to go beyond the headlines and join a meaningful conversation with people from around the state. You're listening to MidDays with Gerard Gibert here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's hour 3 of MidDays. The afternoon portion is live from the Element Wealth studio on this
Hump Day.
Yeah, man, really appreciate Henry Barbour spending the hour with us in the middle of the show. So much insight and such knowledge in his head that he can share with us about all things political. And he is absolutely plugged into it, not only within the state, but in the country. Derek in Greenwood says 2,000 acres of data center puts 12 to 15 people out of work that aren't or ever will be qualified to work there. Not exactly sure what you're saying there, Derek, but I will say this, 2,000 acres is a lot. I know that the 2 AWS campuses in Madison County consume about 1,700 acres, and that is for 34 buildings of 250,000 square feet each. So you're talking about over 8 million square feet of data center floor, an investment not officially announced, but the company doesn't mind sharing what it looks like that will come in at about $50 billion is what it's going to be. Now, the company already has 500 full-time employees at the North Campus in Canton. Remember, to qualify for the various provisions of the deal that the legislature and the governor signed off on, they got to have 1,000, making $66,000 a year on average. They will easily exceed that. They're at 500 right now with 6 buildings online. So, but He says, okay, farmland versus data center. Yeah, and what Henry was saying is that it's not a function of the value of the farmland to produce the food and fiber we need as humans to live. Absolutely, we got to have that, versus the services provided by the data centers. He was, of course, talking explicitly in terms of the ad valorem taxes paid, and so the taxable, assessable value of raw land versus these facilities there's a significant delta, of course, because you're talking about the land, the real estate itself, and whatever improvements have been made on it to support a farming operation, an agricultural operation, in terms of what it would pay for ad valorem taxes, annual property taxes, versus if you've got multi-billion dollars invested, in the case of Amazon and Madison County, right now between the two sites, 1,700 acres, $50 billion of real property, personal property, subject to being assessed for ad valorem taxes, and then, of course, the payment of those ad valorem taxes. Yeah, it's monumental. You can absolutely do a lot. I know a lot of people want to see their property taxes go down. Man, I'm with them. I want to see mine go down as well. This is the way to do it. It's to bring in major industry that would pay a significant amount of property taxes, which would give supervisors, districts, cities the path to reducing our property taxes. And we're going to continue to push those leaders, certainly in Madison County, with this project to give us a break on those property taxes with all this newfound revenue they're about to have. Robert in Brandon says, I don't think the data centers are taking over farmland. That's absolutely true, Robert. They're not. About 5,000 acres in the state of Mississippi. I can't point to a single inch of that land that actually was formerly farmland. You certainly know it's not in Clinton. It's the old Delphi site. It's not in Warren County. It's not in Madison County. It's not in Brandon. It's not in Lauderdale County. It's not in DeSoto County. So it's not an either or, and that's what comes up a lot, as you know, Rhino. It's like a false choice. It's not like, well, we can either have a farm there or we can have a data center. That's actually not happening. And good news is, good Lord blessed us with plenty of land in this country. We have 31 million acres in the state, and these data centers are taking up about 5,000 acres. So that's less than, 0.2%? Not a lot. And the same is true across the country. If you look at the total acreage in the country and the acreage being consumed by data centers, it's a fraction. It's way less than 1%. I think I did the math the other day. It's like 0.017% or something like that. So we are blessed. And gosh, if you were to look at the amount of land that's just occupied by structures in this country, look at a map of that, the country's still mostly untouched. That all the people and all the building occurred in a concentrated area, mainly on the coasts, if you look at our population. So-called flyover land, we kind of, in this part of the country, in the middle part of the country, feel like we get overlooked because all the people are on the coast. And by the way, as you well know, Rhino, that's why we have the Electoral College is the method by which we select our president. It was exactly for that reason, so that states with a smaller population would have somewhat of an equal vote in the matter, as opposed to electing our president in accordance with the popular vote. The fear being, well, all the popular vote's going to be concentrated in areas where they all think the same. We don't want that. We want the diversity of views and opinions and preferences of candidates to determine who is our president. Now, as you know, the Democrats would like nothing more than to do away with that, because it turns out most of the crazy people live on the coast, and there are more of them. And except in the last election, where our president did actually win the popular vote. But that was a bit of a rarity, and they'd like to see the popular vote determine the outcome of presidential elections as opposed to the Electoral College. That would require an amendment to the Constitution. We've talked about that before. It's an incredibly high bar. The founders were brilliant for making it an incredibly high bar because you need to think about that a little bit before you change something that's so permanent and so impactful. It's just a brilliant way that the system was formed for the formation and the governance of our country. And as you know, all countries don't have systems similar to that. I submit that's why we are the most powerful. And we are the most affluent. Unbelievable. Hopefully, Corey in Cleveland says, hopefully this revenue is used wisely. A ton of money coming in could create a lot of temptation for misuse if something happens to the data centers, especially a large one like AWS, and the revenue is no longer produced. The impact could be detrimental. I agree, Corey. That's certainly a concern, but, that's why we go to the polls and vote for these representatives who would have the responsibility, talking about supervisors at the county level, and also those that we elect to our school boards, where we do have elected school boards, and then, of course, city leadership as well. All of those figure into the not only the property tax millage and the amount collected and produced in revenue, but also the way it is spent. No doubt about it. Let's see. I don't know what this person is saying here, but Mo says, Gerard, sadly, municipalities will not take new revenue as a way to reduce taxes. They will use the money to shore up their accounts and improve their buildings. Yeah, it's certainly a risk, a fear, Mose, and I agree with you. And I'll just point this out, Rhino. The reason you can cut taxes at the federal level is because we got this thing called a printing press. If we had to balance our budget and could only spend what we take in, unfortunately, we'd have much higher taxes. Because we ain't cutting the spending. Because cutting the spending means you lose, as a politician, what you covet more than anything, and that's your political office. And nobody likes that. So, and when the Democrats are out there still promoting this narrative, they've cut in food stamps, they've cut Medicaid. No. That's what they don't get, right? Nobody cut the math, if you will. Nobody cut the way in which we send money to the states to run the food stamps program, to run Medicaid. What was changed was eligibility. Like, you got to check in every 6 months to make sure you're eligible. And by the way, if you're in this country, and even if you're a documented immigrant, sorry, you're not a citizen, you don't participate. That's what changed. You got to work to 64, not 59 to qualify for SNAP benefits. That's not cuts. That's just saying, got to do a little bit more to get these benefits. Coming right back.
In today's fast,
Interrupt this program.
Gerard Gibert.
Here we go. This is huge news. Huge news.
You need to listen to this.
Middays with Gerard. SuperTalk, Mississippi.
We're back with you in the Element Wealth studio. So just something I saw interesting this morning, right on the Business Channel real early, was a tour of a chrome manufacturer. It's like the first one stateside in the country to be constructed in decades. Like I didn't realize this. It's just a product I don't think about a lot, but just the smeltering, I guess, and the fabrication of chrome to be used downstream, to produce finished good type products. When I see that chrome, when the founder, the CEO of the company, he said he spent $15 million kind of revitalizing a factory. It's not a massive investment. And when he was showing some of the finished sheets of chrome, I immediately started thinking about the automobiles of my era, that had the big chrome bumpers that looked nice and shiny. And I remember as a kid, I loved to shine those things up. And then the chrome wheels on my bike, and I remember buying the chrome cleaner, the solution in the cans, and you get a really soft cloth and dab it with that chrome cleaner. And I just took great pride in shining those bumpers and shining my bike and all the spokes. Like, what happened to that? But this guy's creating a chrome factory somewhere in the Midwest, I believe. And this is great. And so I didn't realize we kind of sent all that overseas, shut down all the chrome factories, plants, smelters, whatever they're called. I just thought that was cool. So that's an example, though, of he said it. He said, look, it's the one big beautiful bill. It's the ability to write off the construction costs and the immediate expensing of CapEx. It makes it viable, economically viable. And the other thing he said, something we've talked about all the time, we're not going to have a whole lot of employees. We're creating some jobs, but not like it was decades ago when these things had people shoulder to shoulder in them. But because of all the new manufacturing fabrication technology, data center powered, by the way. Sorry, I had to stick that in there. But he said we're not going to have a lot of people. But is creating jobs where no jobs previously were in this particular factory. So I just think was exciting. I'm glad to see kind of an old legacy type industry returning to the soil, but with a new technology bent on it, with all these fabrication techniques, and going to be more of that. It's not surprising, is it, that when you tell investors, business owners, entrepreneurs, you need some money to crank up something like this, in this case $15 million, and he didn't talk about where he got the funding. I don't know if it's his own money, he borrowed it, has some investors. Could be a combination of all the above. Wouldn't surprise me. But the main thing is, you get to write that off in your taxes. Now, the Democrats go crazy over that. They're not paying their fair share because in the year in which he makes that investment and he's producing a profit, that deduction will likely render him a zero-price tax bill. Won't pay any taxes. That the investment that he made as written off against the income produced by the company will yield a zero taxable income and probably have some that he could carry forward. And they'll go crazy over it.
Apparently, it's more like foreign investment because the company, AMG Critical Materials, is headquartered in Amsterdam.
Oh, okay. But the factory's being built here.
The factory's being built here.
All right. Well, that's fine as well because that's still here on American soil, American assets, American jobs. All the above.
While it hasn't been announced from the company itself, reports believe that they will likely be a key component in SpaceX.
How about that?
For the special nickel alloy that SpaceX uses.
Okay. So a little vertical integration right here inside the country. Yeah. So the supply chain inside the country. We want more of that. We're starting to see more of that. But this is not your factory of the 70s. That's the point. This is precision manufacturing using lots of high technology to do so very efficiently and expertly, very precisely, hence the term precision manufacturing. So I just thought it was cool. I'm excited about that. Thomas in Greenwood says 2,000 acres of farmland won't employ 10 people nowadays. But you, I think, and others have complained that these data centers are big buildings that don't have a lot of employees in them. So 2,000 acres, do you realize?
It depends on what's being grown. Like if it's row crops, it could be as few as 1 or 2 people for 2,000 acres.
Okay.
Where if it's more labor intensive, like if it's
poultry.
Well, no, like if you were looking at something like a soft fruit or something like that where it has to be hand-picked, then you're looking at, depending on what it is, anywhere from 10 to 20 people.
Okay. I didn't think about that. So soft fruit still have to be handpicked? Can't be picked by
Not
machines?
all of them, but there are a lot of them where it's still just more cost effective to hire seasonal workers. It wouldn't be cost effective to hire Americans.
I was thinking, I guess, about I know some poultry farms, what do they call it, free range, where the chickens are just able to run around. They're not caged. You got to have people to go chase the chickens, right? They call them catchers, I think, literally is the term used to describe them. And so that's labor intensive, as an example. But it's fascinating. I actually agree with you, Thomas, and thank you for that explanation, Rhino. That is absolutely the case. But it's something else we should think about. If row crops hadn't, if that operation hadn't automated to the extent it had, and it still was labor intensive, we wouldn't be able to buy most of it because of the amount of money you'd have to, right? I mean, that's the whole idea, is to strip that cost out and automate it. And then people say, well, you're getting rid of the jobs. No, there are plenty of other jobs to do something different. So we automated this, but we created that. And that's been going on forever in our economy. I almost said for decades, really from forever. It hasn't stopped. It's always been there. It's always been the case. Just pick some occupation. We all could think of one that was around 30, 40 years ago. It isn't today. That doesn't mean we have fewer jobs. We got more people working than we ever have. And we have a low unemployment rate. But we have leaned more and transitioned more to a services economy. It's our number one export is services. It's our number one export. We are not an industrial economy like we once were. It's not because it doesn't exist. It still exists like it did. It's just we created all these new industries as a result of innovation, human innovation. So those are all good. And we have the environment in this country that facilitates that promotes that. Whereas we were talking yesterday in France, where all they want to do is sue and levy fines on our companies. They don't work over there. They're off more. They're more about their leisure time. But they don't create anything either. And they don't continue to advance economically the way this country has. David says, I was a catcher as a kid, and Grandma would chop the head off. I remember that as well. Brandon from Cleveland says, like sweet potatoes. Okay, yeah.
That'd be more labor intensive.
Okay, that makes sense. And that's a big industry in our state, sweet potatoes. Let's see. Kevin in Monticello, the government introduced prohibition, and it created a new lifeline for bootleggers. It's a cycle. Mose, Gerard, remember when all the property taxes were increased and you mentioned it would be an opportunity for boards of supervisors to reduce millage. Ours didn't even consider that. They basically said, thank you for the money. We have places to spend it. Yeah, just to kind of clarify, Mose, what I said was when the Department of Revenue ordered the tax assessors at the counties go reassess and update the values, most of which, of course, go up. That means you got a higher dollar value of assessable property multiplied by the same millage equals you're paying more property taxes. My recommendation was, lower your property taxes. Now, some places did do that, right? Now, I can't remember off the top of my head. Was it DeSoto County maybe that reduced their millage to offset the increase in assessed values? Thus, your property taxes remained level, didn't really go up. So,
DeSoto County had it for the County Board of Supervisors. They reduced their millage rate from 41.02 to 34.25.
There you go.
City of Hernando reduced their city property tax rate by 5 mils from 40.77
in DeSoto County, of course, yeah.
Olive Branch reduced their ad valorem property tax millage.
There you go.
And Marshall County.
Okay, so your property values went up, but your millage went down. Thus, your property taxes remain level for the most part. Grenada County reduced their millage rate. This is on the C Spire text line as well, so we'll look for that. Okay. So, that was the idea, Mose. Unfortunately, that didn't happen across the state. Yeah, I do know. Many said, thanks for the additional money. We got places to spend it. Right. Coming right back in the Element Well studio.
From the Seabrook Middays with Gerard.
Good for America. Good for fans of justice and truth. Good for us.
SuperTalk Mississippi.
This is what we stand for.
We're back with you in the Element Wealth studio. We appreciate you joining us. So, yeah, I'm all over it. I'd like to see situations where there's an influx of new ad valorem tax revenue into a county. Yeah, I'd like to see the supervisors, the school districts, the cities bump the millage down. Give the taxpayers a break. That's one of the biggest benefits of attracting industry into the state, is that they're going to make major investments in plant and equipment, real estate, that are subject to property taxes.
The problem is we have politicians elected to office from the top to the bottom that feel as if they know better than everybody else how tax dollars should be spent. And once they get in office, they've got their little short list of pet projects they'd love to see come to fruition. And if you wind up paying more tax dollars so that their pet project can get done, they really don't give a rat's rear end.
And that's a shame. It shouldn't be that way, honestly. And I fear you're right. And I'm concerned about that. It shouldn't be that way. That's obviously putting, as you know, that's putting politics and your personal political fortunes ahead of the people that you've been entrusted to govern, if you will. But I'm afraid that is more common than
But I mean, the people
meets
aren't
the eye.
completely innocent in this. The people elect these politicians.
And keep sending them back.
Keep sending them back, and the people demand these politicians to do something. If a politician doesn't have any of those pet projects, then the people get upset because the politician's just taking my tax dollars and sitting there doing nothing.
So true. So absolutely true. Well, I think it's a situation where even though we may have a lot of this new revenue coming in from these investments, these business investments, that there's never a tax dollar they met they didn't like, so to speak. But I am strongly encouraging them to consider reducing our millage, our taxes.
But if they reduce the millage, then they can't build a park and put their name on it.
That's unfortunate, but true. I know, and that's a shame that seems to overshadow what would give the people a bit of a break on their taxes, right? That's unfortunate, because I think people are looking for that. And I would say particularly when it comes to property taxes, that's just one of those taxes that we love to loathe. It just feels like you're sort of paying a fee, if you will, for the privilege of living in a home that you're paying for or have paid for or own. And it's not a pleasant experience. Now, if you've got a mortgage, a lot of people sort of don't pay attention to it because it's built into their mortgage. It's escrowed, and your mortgage company requires it, includes it in your mortgage payment, and then they pay the tax collector and your insurance, property insurance as well. Yeah, so not a popular tax. And the way I think to chip away at it, again, is to continue to recruit and bring industry in. Let them come in. They built it into their business model. It's expected. It's no matter where they go, they've got to bear those taxes. All states have some form of ad valorem taxes that's used at the local level to fund local operations, school districts, counties, cities. So let them pay it. And honestly, as a percentage of their expenses in their business model, it's almost negligible. It's immaterial, but it's significant to the taxing authority. And they could give us regular old homeowners and car vehicle owners a break. It's what I'd like to see. Hopefully they're listening and they're thinking about that. I know there's a committee, as you know, that another one of these select committees, I'm not sure exactly what the Speaker calls them. I'm going to call them a select committee because he selects the members for each committee, chairperson, co-chairperson, and then I should say co-chairpersons, and then the actual members in the Mississippi House. 6 of them created. One of them is to explore possible reforms to property taxes. And maybe we'll get something out of that. You know, though, more than likely, Rhino, if they bring in those who would be required to deal with those reduced revenues, people that run cities, counties, school districts, I just don't think they're going to be on board in support of any reductions there. And many are saying it's hard to make ends meet now, much less if we had fewer dollars coming in. Certainly we'll see.
In the private sector, when you have a budget that's getting tight, what do you do?
Yeah, you start looking hard. I've done it before. You start looking hard at the expense section of the income statement and start figuring out where can I cut the expenses.
And what's one of the, if not the largest expense?
People. Yeah, I know. Absolutely. And
we've kept growing the size of government at every level for at least the last 4 generations.
Yeah.
And we've got diminishing returns.
And I think that's why a lot of people are upset about the taxes they pay. They just feel like they're not getting sufficient return on that investment. I get it, and so they want a break. You know, if you're going to tax the heck out of me, produce more for it. Would be, I think, their narrative and their position. You know, the climate change nuts, they never give up, even when their lies are exposed. Was researching this yesterday, got interested. The UN predictions of catastrophic global warming have been totally discredited and retracted. Yet, when asked by, I didn't even know ABC had a climate correspondent. This was recently, I should say, whether the 2006 film An Inconvenient Truth and its predictions on global warming hold up. When Al Gore was asked this question, he says, unfortunately, yes. Huh? That's from the former VP. Says the scientists were dead right on all the important elements of it, and it really is insane that we are continuing to use the sky as an open sewer, and we're trapping so much heat every day. It's equal to the amount that would be released by 800,000 Hiroshima-class atomic bombs exploding every day on Earth. That's what Al Gore said in an interview. I'm quoting it. 800,000 nuclear bombs a day? Now, the book was from 2006. So, the truth is, we have seen significant decline in air pollution emissions in this country. That's documented. That's just fact. That's the truth. When's the last time you saw L.A., for example, cancel school in the valley because of the pollution cloud? Stay inside. Don't go to school. When's the last time you saw that? Are there fewer cars in L.A.? No. There's way more.
And there's still snow on Mount Fuji.
That's right.
And the ice cap has not melted. That's another one of the asinine points they tried to bring up in that movie was, the ice is melting so much that the polar bears are drowning trying to find a patch of ice. And then you dig into it, and it's, they found 4 polar bears drowned. You know what drowned them? A big storm. It wasn't because they couldn't find ice due to it melting.
Part of the nature of the natural plan, right? A big storm. But aren't they resurging in population? Haven't we seen that?
Have been for like 6 decades.
Well, that's
now.
what I thought. Unbelievable.
It's almost like all these climate nuts really don't give a rat's rear end about the climate. They just want political power.
That's the cause of that day. And, of course, their causes today. It's the same sort of narrative, same sort of approach. Coming right back with a final segment on this Wednesday. Stay with us.
8 or 9, she made up her mind, man, to really live. She gonna go out and live for real. She's a mean man, hater, don't you know? She's a real heartbreaker, don't you know? She's a real heartbreaker, mean man, hater. She's a real heartbreaker, don't you know? A real heartbreaker. A real heartbreaker. A mean man, hater. A real heartbreaker.
I've seen covering the stories that matter most to Mississippians. Gerard Gibert, Middays with Gerard, SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Yeah, baby. It's the Come On Man. I'm on my way. Go check it out, baby.
We're back with you in the Element Wealth Studio. It's the final segment today. Man, I wish we knew where Rhino really stood on climate change, says Dan in Hattiesburg. I think he calls balls and strikes. Amen to that, no doubt. Let's see here. What else? Brandon from Cleveland, I don't understand about how climate crazies do it, but it's big money for them. Al Gore got rich off of it.
It's because naive nitwits think they're saving the planet by giving them money. That's one part of it. The other part of it you should be much more angry about because it doesn't involve other people with doing what they want with their money. It involves what the government does with your money because they got rich predominantly off the funneling of tax dollars into NGOs, oftentimes led by these liberal politicians' buddies. All that tax money getting funneled into those organizations to quote-unquote save the planet. Yet Al Gore himself said it hasn't done a bit of difference.
That's exactly what he said. Oh, man. So I'm looking at the chart of just the decline in CO, I don't even know what all this is, NH3, NOx, direct PM2.5, direct PM10, SO2, VOC. I'm sure those are all types of emissions, the chemical representation of that. And, yeah, looking at a chart from 1990 to 2025, and for every one of those pollutants, I should say half of them decline, the others steep decline, small decline to level, but we have more people. So the question is, what somebody say, so we have less pollution per capita? Well, yeah, so that would be. We have declining amount of emissions, more people, sure, that math would indicate less per capita.
But if you're just looking at raw numbers and math, the 350-odd million people in America can't make a dent. If every single American went to carbon neutral, carbon zero, there's still 1 billion Chinese people just burning coal whenever possible.
And that's
Do you really think 300 million people bending over backwards and completely ruining their way of life is going to do anything to 1 billion people that don't give a rip?
precisely what Paul and Meridian said. Why should the United States have to adjust to any new climate regulations until the rest of the world catches up with us? Totally agree, but with you there, Paul. But remember, Rhino, we're told that, that capitalism is so destructive. No, it's capitalism that spawned the creation of all this innovation, all these technologies, all these systems that is essentially eliminated the huge threat of pollution. We're still as industrialized as we ever were. We're still driving as many cars, if not more, which were the primary pollutants with the vehicles. That's why L.A. was always kind of ground zero for the whole pollution narrative, because they had a lot of cars. Bunch of them there in Southern California and sandwiched in between the mountains and not a whole lot of wind. So the combination of that would be smog, clouds of smog. We don't have that anymore. We figured out a way to do away with all that. And people made money doing it. That's the other piece of it. It's amazing what people will do when they're motivated by financial rewards.
But nothing will ever be enough for the climate crazies, because it's not actually about the climate for them. It's about enacting asinine liberal political policies.
Totally true. So haven't talked about this in a while. I wanted to get this in today. The Florida School Choice Program is doing quite well. It's maybe the model for the country of what that ought to look like. So the Florida Education Association, that's the union, they have filed a lawsuit challenging the constitutionality of the acclaimed school choice program in the Sunshine State, which includes charter schools as well. 1 million kids in Florida utilize some option in their school choice program. The legal scholars have said, however, the Florida Constitution guarantees a uniform system of free public schools, but does not prohibit the legislature from expanding educational options beyond the traditional public school model. So they're really upset about the charter schools because they're doing so well. So rather than up their game so that maybe families don't want to move from the public schools to the charter schools, they'd rather sue and get the government to force it, to protect. No, that's bad. That's bad policy. And I don't think this lawsuit's going anyway, but just wanted folks to know that essentially it's the unions and the Democrats and the leftists in this country more than any who oppose any form of school and education choice and freedom. Out of here today, back tomorrow. Stay safe and God bless everyone.
SuperTalk Mississippi Media Production.